reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSport60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sport 60.
Our TRS60 hotline, and this gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a longtime Chicagoan, if you're a longtime sports fan, if you just pay attention to what's going on in the landscape as far as the sports world is concerned here in the greatest city in the world, Chicago, you know of this gentleman's work, and I'm pleased to and honored to have him join us on the Rewind Sports 60. It's been a long time, and I'm sure a lot of you misses this guy's entertainment, whether you like it or you didn't like it. But, ladies and gentlemen, he's a former Chicago Sun-Times columnist, ESPN radio host. He's currently the host of Unmuted, a podcast, and he writes for the Barrett Sports Media. He's on our TR60 hotline, ladies and gentlemen. You love him? Some of you may hate him, but he's with us on the Rewind Sports 60. He's none other than Jay Mariotti. Jay, how are you?
Jerry Riles, long time no here, and I want to praise you for putting me on the air, because that's something that would not happen at the Score or at A1000. So it's good to be with you.
Well, you know what? It's
hope we won't be sorry.
No. You know what? It's no problem with me. And I got to tell you, our slogan, our motto, Jay, is real sports, real talk, just playing real. And believe me, you've covered years and years of the best, whether it's here in Chicago or around the country. You've covered a lot of folks, and you know a lot of people. And you and I both know in this industry, it's cutthroat, it's backstabbing, and it's very, very challenging. But I'm here to say that, because I'm a practicing Catholic, that he is without sin cast the first stone. And so I don't have a problem talking with anybody, because we have all stumbled, we've all, stubbed our toe, our foot or whatever, and it doesn't mean that that's the end. It means we get back up, dust ourselves off, and move forward, brother. So I appreciate you taking the offer and joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 to come on and talk shop.
No problem. In fact, I got off these AirPods I was on because I think they were making a distortion, but no, I mean, it's good to hear from somebody like you. You used to work, excuse me, in the industry at the Score, I believe, and I think there's been a lot of misconceptions about me. I left the Sun-Times. I handed back $1 million because I thought the thing was falling apart back in 2008, and I think now looking back a dozen years later, I think I was right. I'm glad I got out of there when I did, because they had no digital presence at the time. It was a faltering newspaper, and I have moved on. I live in Los Angeles now. I'm loving life, and I threw myself into my work in Chicago, as anybody who read me knows, and I'm pleased to have had 17 years in that city. But it was good to get it out of there when I did.
No, the industry was certainly changing, and I know that there are a lot of scribes who transition from print to the digital world to on air, and they're hosting shows in what I call the greatest city in the world, that of course Chicago, Illinois. But there was certainly a transitional time frame, and people were fearful. I mean, a lot of print people didn't know when the dust settled where things were going to lie, and they were just simply scrambling. But I can say a lot of them have landed on their feet. You've landed on your feet. And, we move forward. We wanted to reach out to you. And again, great years here in the Chicagoland area. You certainly ruffled a lot of feathers, though, Jay. Of course, you ruffled a lot of feathers. But before we say goodbye to you, I want you to make amends with the future World Series champions, and that, of course, the Chicago White Sox, man, because you had some feuds with the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, of course, Ozzie Guillen, when he was the manager back during that day. But I'm telling you, it's time to, hey, let bygones be bygones and let's mend fences and move forward, because I'd love to see you here in Chicago when the White Sox hoist the 2021 World Series championship, my friend.
Let's talk about the White Sox for a minute. I mean, oddly, why only the White Sox did I have a problem? I never had any problem with the Cubs, never with the Bears, never with the Blackhawks, never with Northwestern, never with the Illini, never with anybody in that city, not even the Bulls. Why the White Sox? It became, I believe, a Hawk Harrelson production. We suck. Let's go after Mariotti. Fine. All it did was sell more newspapers when I wasn't even attempting to do so at the time. So I had no problem with the White Sox. I covered the White Sox with the same aggressiveness that I covered everybody else in Chicago. They seem to have the problem with me. And I think if you guys look back in time a little bit at the Cubs, that was Sammy Sosa, that was Bartman. And honestly, nothing against the White Sox or their fans or anything, but most of my time, during the baseball season was being spent at Wrigley Field. So there were a lot of times I wasn't even going to White Sox games. Remember, I was a national columnist. I'm covering the Olympics overseas. I'm covering golf tournaments. I'm covering Tiger Woods. I'm not entrenched in the city like, say, a talk show host would be 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. I was everywhere, and yet I'm hearing these distant calls from Ozzie Guillen. Where is he? Why isn't he here? Because I don't cover your team, Ozzie. I don't care. I'm covering the U.S. Open at Winged Foot, and I don't really care what's going on with your team right now. And I think that just became this convoluted media thing where it became laughable. The Jay against the White Sox. Why? To this day, I can't explain the whole thing other than never had any problems with any other teams in Chicago. But the White Sox, I have a problem. I had no problem with the White Sox. They had a problem with me.
So, the way you feel, and you say you don't really know why it even started, did you over time say, you know what, let me pick up the phone, call, Jerry, Mr. Reinsdorf, and say, hey, let me clear the air. There's nothing against you, because I do remember there were a couple articles that you wrote about, well, in particular, Hawk Harrelson, and the phrase that he coined, "he gone." I distinctly remember you saying in the article that he doesn't even speak proper English, and some fans and the White Sox could look at that and say, wait a minute, because "he gone" is a catchy phrase, and it still sticks today with the great legendary Hall of Famer broadcaster Hawk Harrelson. But when you wrote that article and say "he gone" and it doesn't even make any sense, I can see from the White Sox perspective.
Harry Carey spoke proper English. I mean, neither did Harry Carey. I mean, come on. I think the White Sox in general, and it started with Reinsdorf, everybody's too sensitive on the South Side. Let me tell you a Reinsdorf story. When I got to Chicago, I'm in Sarasota when they were at the time when the White Sox were training in Florida. Reinsdorf wanted to have an audience with me at the ballpark there. I had an audience with him and his assistant, Dennis Gilbert, who I believe is still his assistant to this day. And we started off fine until, this is going back a while, guys, 29 years, but Reinsdorf was the most influential sports owner in America at the time. He was the owner of a budding basketball dynasty. He paid Michael Jordan his salary, and he owned a baseball franchise that was opening a brand new ballpark, a glittering new ballpark at the time, with Frank Thomas, Robin Ventura, an awesome starting rotation, and what seemed to be a budding baseball dynasty. And I'm sitting there, just arrived in town, realizing, wow, it's going to be hard to screw this up because this man is on top of the world, Jerry Reinsdorf. Well, some things started to happen there. I mean, you have the Michael Jordan gambling scandal. There was Reinsdorf's role in a labor impasse in baseball that I think we're headed toward again in 2022. And this man could not accept much of what I was writing in the Chicago Sun-Times. I'm supposed to be, I guess, his Bobo. And I'm starting to get phone calls from people saying we can't sit in the upper deck at the ballpark, it's too steep. We're a senior citizens group from Rockford, and we had to go home because we can't make it up there. It's too steep. And I'm starting to write these articles about his ballpark maybe not being so hot and the baseball situation with labor, and he's not liking it. And one day I get a call from his assistant, and she said, "You are not to call Mr. Reinsdorf again." And guys, I guess I heeded that advice because I didn't speak to the man again for, 15 years? If he doesn't want to talk to me, if he's going to be a baby, and he always was, none of the other owners were babies in Chicago. They just took the heat. It's a major market. The columnists should be tough there. They aren't. To this day, they're very soft. I think a lot of the talk show hosts at the Score know where their bread is buttered. They can't cross that line. They want to stay employed. Same with AM 1000. I didn't care. I said, I'm going to write for the fans, whether they like it or not. And I think a lot of fans did not simply understand that I was working for them, because when they would hear a Hawk Harrelson criticize me, it would be, oh, if Hawk's ripping him, he must not be a cool guy. No, I'm writing the truth about the owners in Chicago, and I think some smart fans got it and appreciated it. And I think some not-so-smart fans thought I was against their team. I wasn't against their team. I'm trying to help their team win by maximizing the payroll of the White Sox and the Bears and the other teams in town. Remember, I used to call the Bears the misers of the Midway. Well, I didn't hear the McCaskies trying to get me fired or calling me anti-whatever. Reinsdorf used to say I was anti-Semitic. No, I'm anti-bad owner. Spend your money.
Well,
and so getting back, Jerry, to what you were saying 3 minutes ago, you want me to make amends for what? This team has not been in the playoffs for how long? 12, 13 years before last autumn? I'm going to make amends for what? They underachieved. This guy was a cheap ass for years. He finally puts a team together with a long rebuild, and now what? Everything's good again? I think the fans need to be harder on your management people there. I don't think they're hard enough, and I think the media need to be much, much harder on the teams there. And I get. To me, it's like funny, all these years later, anytime I write something about Chicago, oh my God, he wrote about us. I mean, grow up, people.
Well,
my God.
Well, Jay,
it's the third largest city in America.
Yeah.
Start acting that way in regard to your sports team.
We're on with Jay Mariotti, sports journalist and commentator. Thank you so very much. And hey, as the old great late Chet Kopic would say, your dime, your dance floor, buddy. Hey, listen, the reason I said make amends is the fact that it's in the past. And first of all, there are a lot of people that would disagree with you back then and even today with Jerry Reinsdorf, because many of us feel that he's the greatest owner in the city of Chicago. Some say Rocky Warts, and the simple fact of the championships that Jerry Reinsdorf and his company, his organization have put together, whether it's the Bulls and the Michael Jordan, we certainly get that, or the White Sox with the 205 championship and what they're doing now. So I'm a lifelong Chicagoan. I've grown up in the city, and I've seen the hard times, brother. Believe me, I've seen the hard times. And so I understand the business aspects of what happens, but from a fan's perspective, and even from a media's perspective, I say make amends for the simple fact that it's a tough business. It's a tough business, and this stuff is water under the bridge, and there's no reason, in my opinion, to hold a grudge one way or the other.
2 words.
Yeah.
Jerry, 2 words. Boston, Massachusetts. How many?
I got it.
Championships
That's another thing that pisses us off.
Patriots, Celtics, and Bruins won in the 21st century, guys. How many? What is it?
We get it.
15?
Yeah.
I mean, you need to start.
Stop it. We can't deal with that.
What? It's a minor market. It's a little league market, Jerry. I got to run. It's Los Angeles. This is a big time market. Have a good day, man. Bye-bye.
Wow. That's it?
I guess.
I was going to ask about if it's a Reinsdorf thing, why didn't he have a problem with the Bulls?
I wanted to ask him about maybe he got upset. He got his 2 cents in and he got upset.
I was going to ask him to tell us how he really feels.
Yeah, he got an opportunity.
We live rent free in his brain. I see in Chicago. Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe Jay is Jay.
Obviously, it's still festering.
Yeah, I don't think
I
that.
can't believe he hung up like that.
Yeah, call him back.
Even Mike Dicker stayed on a little longer than that. Jesus Christ. Give us a break, Jay.
Ditka was angry. I don't
Call him
think
back. Call him
at
back.
us.
Dylan, call Jay right back. Tell him I got one other thing for him.
Yeah, I didn't even get to ask him anything.
I wanted to ask him about. You talking about ownership?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask him about our question to George McCaskey and the Payton family ownership. But evidently he's not. He still has a bone to pick with Jerry Reinsdorf and the Chicago White Sox.
And we were innocent bystanders in there. Why you hang up on us?
Well, wait, it's 4:30 in L.A. It isn't even happy hour. It's not a weekday. You know?
I wanted to talk with him about Tiger Woods, but he doesn't want to answer. No problem. I'll call him later after the show. But Jay, it was his dance floor, and he was done dancing.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping for an opportunity to talk. Wow, I didn't expect that, to be honest with you.
I didn't know that's where we were going.
I thought he was joking.
Me either. I mean, what ticked him off so bad? Because you just was like, just stop, put it in the past. What? Jerry, what you doing?
Well, I didn't want to hear about the Boston market.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear about that because it's a.
Patriots, Bruins.
Yeah,
Red Sox.
we don't need that rubbed in our face. We don't need that. We understand championships. We understand that. We don't need that rubbed in our faces. But I was hoping. I invited Jay Mariotti to join us to talk about
Celtics.
Tiger Woods, right? Because he's out in Los Angeles. I read
got a lot of nerve.
I read his column regarding the curse of Tiger Woods with the recent accident that he was involved in, and thank God that Tiger is okay. Long recovery, but his golf game it's done. It's over. His golf career is over. So, but that's why I extended the invitation to talk to Jay Mariotti to get his perspective on that, and his story. And
he started out by saying that the score wouldn't have him, and so that he started out with. Some kind with a feeling.
Yes, a very strong feeling. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, and the one reason I said make amends is because I do understand that Jay wanted to return back to Chicago. He spent 17 years here covering the teams, and of course he wrote for the Chicago Sun-Times as a columnist, controversial, no question about it. But I understood that he wanted to try to get back into the market and talk sports, which is fine, and I'd love to have him anytime to talk.
I thought I heard him say that he gave up $1 million. It was his choice. I mean, it sounded like
given it over to me.
Yeah,
I would have taken it. But I didn't expect I didn't expect Jay Mariotti to take that position.
Yeah.
I think over time, wounds should heal. I think you let things go. Life is too short to be fighting and bickering over sports. Nonetheless.
Okay, the Beatles. Life is very short, and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend.
Hey, Lauren, I had a fight with a childhood friend. I only had like 2 fights in my whole life, right? And the one was with a childhood friend. His name was Sean Swayzer. I had a fight with him. He beat me up once. I beat him up the second time, and that was all she wrote.
Yes.
I still don't hold a grudge to the guy 50 years later because we had a fight.
Jeez.
Let it go.
Yep.
I'll call him.
We didn't do it, Jay.
We'll get Jay back on.
We had nothing to do with that.
Wow. Well,
okay.
Hey, Dylan, can you get our other guests on? We got a couple minutes, man. Dylan is filling in for Devin Tingle.
He like, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
Dylan, this is not our fault. We don't usually get hung up on like this.
We have time to kill now.
Yeah, we only got hung up.
I'm glad I did
just one time.
I'm glad I did the PSA. I mean, that took some time.
Yes. Why do these guys feel they have to hang up? Is it? I'm not.
With Dicker, I could kind of see where.
No, I can't. No, I can't. No.
I mean, I could see the train was going downhill. But this one just.
It was sudden.
I was, about to jump in.
It was
and
sudden.
then,
Me too. It was sudden.
I didn't know he was going there with it.
Maybe he had an appointment.
No, he didn't have an appointment.
Exactly, because he was like, well, it's so time in L.A.
Well, here's what Hawk Harrelson had to say about it.
How long were we from
Yes!
Was that during a game or after retirement?
Mercy!
Yeah, I mean, Hawk Harrelson can't even understand. And he said what he said. He said that these owners, they shouldn't be so sensitive. It seemed like he was the sensitive one.
People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right?
Exactly.
It seemed like he was the sensitive one.
He sure was. And then he's like, the fans aren't hard enough. And, I mean, I wanted to ask him, okay, well, how, what should the fans do? Because I'd heard that they were saying that, a lot of it was different with the McCaskey family this year because they, Virginia and the family couldn't go in their box and see no fans show up, and like that would be what would really prompt them to make some changes if fans decided to not show up anymore like they did for the Bulls. Because, that may be the only language that, would resonate with the family. I don't know, with the ownership.
Yeah, I'm Jay Mariotti.
Yeah.
We didn't ask him really tough questions.
We didn't ask him the tough questions.
You didn't ask him anything.
Yeah, we didn't.
No, I just said I didn't want to hear about Boston and all the championship they've been winning and they've won, and I think he took offense to that. So I mean, that's being a little bit sensitive, but
Bet he won't be coming back to visit Chicago no time soon.
Dylan, who is this?
310.
Yeah, we got someone on the hotline. We apologize. Jay is back. Here he is. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Jerry, I only have 5 more minutes.
Jay, you hung up on me. What are you doing?
I hung up on you because I only had 15 minutes. I'm in a car. Go ahead. What do you need to know?
Yeah, don't do that, Jay.
Dude, hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry, you're a small timer in a little market. See ya. Don't bug me anymore.
Hey, Jay.
No, he didn't.
Small timer in a little market. Wow.
Back again.
Hey, Chicago,
you're a small timer.
there's Jay Mariotti.
What is
And
this? Do you got his email?
Shame on me. And you just gave me an idea.
Yeah.
I would give his number out on the air and tell everybody to call him and kick him in his ass. And if I'm a small timer in a small market, he's not even in the market.
Exactly.
He got kicked out of the market.
Okay.
And again, you want to dog Jerry Reinsdorf? You want to dog Ozzie Guillen? You want to dog the Chicago White Sox? Well, that's the reason they gave you a ticket out of Chicago. And then you took your ass over to ESPN and you got your ass kicked out over there. And, you know what? I don't like to dig up dirty laundry, Jay. I don't like to do it. But
Take it up.
Yeah,
he deserves it.
I'm not going to stoop to his level.
No.
As my good friends Barack Obama and Michelle Obama say, when they go low, we go high. So we'll go high. But Jay Mariotti, you know what? If this is the way, because we don't treat our guests this way, but if this is the way that you handle an invitation to join us,
How petty.
to talk sports,
Yeah.
and you're being sensitive like this, you're being a baby like this, and then you're trying to be name calling like this. Jay Mariotti, good riddance to you.
Yeah.
And
You're the
God
best.
bless you, brother.
He's a
You know what I
scumbag,
say?
like I
God
said.
bless you,
You know what I
brother.
say? Let's move on. That's what I say.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I got 5 minutes. What do you want to do? You're a small timer in a small market. Thanks, Jay.
I'm in the car.
I'm in LA.
Well, you know what? Some people don't change their colors, and
Not at all.
That's
why he was so surprised. He's like, "Oh, somebody let me back home."
He was surprised that somebody from Chicago actually called to talk with him about sports to get his insight on some things, and evidently he still carries a grudge. Marvelous.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, to carry a grudge is one thing, but
It's unbelievable.
it's like a festering wound.
Hey, Jerry Reinsdorf, Hawk Harrelson, Ozzie Guillen, Chicago White Sox organization, I understand. And my apologies to you for extending an invitation for this guy to come on the air and talk shop. My apologies. I hope you guys, your feathers aren't ruffled by either hearing the guy's voice. In City of Chicago, my apologies.
The only consolation would be I hope we got good ratings. At least.
Well, people are going to be listening, and they were listening, but my apologies to all of you who were listening and to the White Sox organization for giving this guy any amount of time to come on, because
Exactly.
I thought maybe he was a little bit mature in his age. I thought maybe that he was a little bit more humble and understanding. But of course, you heard it for yourself, and you'll continue to hear it all week long on the RewindSports60.com. We'll be on Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards, and of course on Comcast Access in the northern suburbs on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Channel 17, Channel 19, Channel 35. Jay Mariotti.
Yeah, we have time to we have time to cover. Is there any time left to carry?
Hey, can we get Buster Douglas on?
I was going to say boxing.
You're not getting an answer from him either?
Boxing? How about no politics or boxing either?
Let me tell you something, man. This is, he
is. He's a scumbag. It's obvious. Why would you do that? You come on the show, and then you're going to be petty like you're 12 years old? Like, what kind of pettiness is that?
But it didn't seem like it was heading there until the end.
Well, no, it was totally out of the blue.
Right.
First and foremost, and then for him to just end it like that again, come back around just to be petty and immature. I just, unbelievable. He is one of a kind.
Sure, it could have been like, something's come up right now. I have to go or something. Anything,
Yeah, but you're gonna call back to say that? Come on.
No, but
let me stop.
No, it's real sports, real talk. That's playing real.
Let me stop. I'm not even gonna go there.
Okay.
Go ahead, finish. No. Nope.
Okay.
Not gonna do it. You ain't gonna do it to me, Jay. You almost took me that way. Nope, not today.
So it was good to hear the White Sox announcers today.
Pretty much, yes.
And it's interesting. Casper's, the play-by-play game for the White Sox on radio now, and they've moved over to 1,000. So it's a little different vibe for the White Sox this year. And the Cubs start tomorrow, and they're going to have Shambi doing the play-by-play on Marquee, and he'll not be there half the time because of his national commitments. So they'll be scrambling for paper. So it will be interesting for spring training. I really enjoyed the live sports. So just to change the subject, I thought he mentioned that.
Thank you. But Tiger Woods is,
What are your thoughts on that?
It's so much to unpack with Tiger. I know you guys probably saw that documentary.
I didn't see it.
You didn't?
No, I lived it.
What about you, Dan? Did you see the documentary? I think it was on HBO. That's special.
I'm aware of it, but I didn't actually see it.
Well, it kind of gave you the behind the scenes. It was unauthorized, obviously. Yeah. But what I became present to after watching that documentary was how disconnected he was. Mm-hmm. He just seemed incredibly disconnected, very robotic, super programmed. And I never saw the aliveness, the joy that you would want to see in someone who has accomplished what he has accomplished. No joy in his fame, his accolades, his money,
How about early on when he was accomplishing for the first time? Was it any different then? You'd think that the first time would have been joyful.
No. He just seemed like he had been programmed and disconnected from that upbringing. And he has done. He transcended sports. That will to win. I was using that in interviews.
It's unbelievable. All these guys, these golfers, that's all they do. And he was so much above them. It's hard to believe that he could have been so superior to the golfers who this is their whole life.
Yes.
They practice every single day, and he was able to defeat them easily for so long.
And not being able to handle, all that comes with that when the world knows who you are. You're above and beyond any sports celebrity that you can think of.
Obviously, that affected his personal life, too.
So that was one of the reasons why I invited Jay Mariotti to join us, because he wrote an article for the publication that he's writing for, and the headline more or less was The Curse Life of Tiger Woods. And I know how he's perceived publicly, and my buddy even said, the guy has a troubling life, and I look at it and I say, you know what? There are a lot of athletes who haven't even reached the magnitude that Tiger has, that, believe me, have a lot worse situations and things occur in their personal lives that never gets to that point.
They had to extract him with the jaws of life.
No,
Jerry.
they didn't. No, they didn't. They pulled him out. That was bad reporting. They didn't use that. The officers they came. They had an axe. They pulled him through the
windshield.
The windshield. Yeah. He was coherent. He told the guy, who are you? My name is Tiger. His leg was shattered, but they didn't have to do that. But the point of the matter is, and I understand, but believe me, there are a lot of athletes, Lauren, who've gone through a lot worse than what Tiger Woods have gone through, yet we don't even know about it. Well, trust me when I tell you this. Okay?
I hear you.
My point being is,
how many crashes can he survive? I mean, this is...
At least he wasn't being chased by, with somebody with a golf club.
And here's the thing. Right. Here's the thing. The road that he crashed on, it's a deadly road. There have been 13 accidents in 13 months with 5 serious injuries on that road that he crashed on. And now the Los Angeles County are going to take a closer look at it and try to make some corrections. So that road in itself is a problem road, and Tiger Woods driving at 7:20 a.m. Pacific time to go to a golf
plus he had a rental car. Wasn't his regular car.
It was from the
golf tournament,
the Genesis Invitational courtesy car SUV. So for him to be driving at 7:20 in the morning to meet Drew Brees for a golf, training or whatever. At that time, that's a deadly road, and thank God that he's okay. But my point being is that, and people, you can point the finger, you can say whatever you want to. You can say, I know people with less money who've done worse. But if you're worth $1 billion, you're worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
In the prime of your life.
Well,
in the prime of your life,
it might not be the prime of life for him.
It was the prime of it. Well, that's even a great point.
That's what you say, but I don't see the prime.
As far as his age.
Was it 40 something?
If you're in your
age,
what is your
mental? Are you mental? Is this the prime of your life mentally?
But that's the point. See, here's the deal, Lauren, and we take it for granted because we live a normal, average life. We get to graduate from high school, graduate from college, get a job, go out to prom. We get to go to hang out at the clubs. We get to do all of that stuff, right? But athletes such as Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, and Michael, he hung out when he had to hang out. But my point is, they didn't get that. We see what happened with Patrick Kane. Because he did not get to live the normal lifestyle, yet he wanted to. And when he had the opportunity, he went crazy.
Like a Michael Jackson.
You go crazy. So Tiger Woods is no different than a lot of these cats that you see at the club or whatever. It's just that Tiger Woods is worth $1 billion, and when he does something, like E.F. Hutton, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. When it happens to Tiger, the world stops.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to live in the bubble, in this fishbowl that he lives in, because what kind of life is that?
But he has the resources, though, Jerry, and that's the thing.
$1 billion resources.
Well, I mean, every resource that you can imagine, and that's the thing. This pandemic has heightened. It's made everything exacerbated. Mental issues that you may or may not have had before this. Then you have, his health issues. He has health issues. These are a lot of the family issues. If you looked at that story, he had a contentious relationship with his dad, and just all of that going on, compounded with, what he is, his talent. That. A lot of people have those issues, but they don't have the resources that he's had.
He had a great comeback story with his back problems to win the Masters a
couple
couple
years
years
ago. Let me say this to you.
He has to get help.
Listen, there are a lot of people.
It's more symbolic than just this is a winding road. I mean, this is the second time this has happened to him.
Robert Ursay, the owner for the Indianapolis Colts. Right?
Yeah.
He got, a couple years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, not that long ago, he got pulled over in Indianapolis, outside of Indianapolis, with his car. He had guns, he had drugs, he was toasted, he was all loaded. We heard a blip on the radar as far as that story is concerned, and that's it. Jerry Jones, he's carousing with women all over the place. The owner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Don't forget the Patriots owner, too.
Yeah, Robert Kraft. Yeah. There's business as usual, because they got the money, they got the resources, and it's like, hey, I own a team. I can do whatever I want to. So what? What makes them?
Yeah, but he almost died,
different?
though. He almost died.
Yeah.
I understand that.
That's way bigger than just getting caught with some females. I mean, this is serious. This is life and death stuff that's happening to him. This is the second time it's happened.
His life, my point being, his life has been under a microscope since he was a little boy.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
None of these other guys' lives have been under a microscope.
Sure.
Listen.
He's got pressure that we could never
Dallas
imagine.
Cowboys, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, all those guys that played back in the championship years, they had what was called the White House. It wasn't the White House in D.C., and it wasn't called the White House because it was the White House. If you understand what I'm saying. So, and Jerry Jones this is his team, America's team. All that stuff was looked the other way. I know Hollywood Henderson, who was a primetime, you remember him?
Yeah.
A primetime linebacker for the storybook America's Team, Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. Cocaine issues. There are problems that the Dallas Cowboys organization, they look the other way. Because at the end of the day, they say, these cats gonna make me some money, and I get to build this big-ass stadium that they're playing in now, so who cares?
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that Tiger Woods and all his exploits, and it's sad, it's disappointing, but Tiger Woods is under the microscope is the fact that the sport that he plays in, he's an individual minority, African-American, part male, that's capitalist. He's dominated the sport that white men created their own.
Yeah.
And they don't want to see that.
Yeah.
They don't want to see that.
But he needs to recognize that first and foremost.
Well,
is he present to that? I don't think he's present to that. I don't think he cares. So why would we?
He shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to.
What do you mean he shouldn't have to?
He
shouldn't have to, but he should be cognizant of it. And
I don't. You know what?
Listen. Not acting like it's not so.
He's living life, Lauren. He's living life, and we all screw up. We all make mistakes. We all have accidents. I had a guy hit my car. I wasn't even driving. He hit my car. It was an accident, but he had to pay for it. But the point is, Tiger Woods is living his life, and he's screwing up in certain parts of it. But hey, the reason
that's what he's got to correct.
The reason we're talking, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does. If he wants it.
Honey.
Well, as humans, we have to correct and evolve and grow, and
that's what humans do.
Yeah,
that's what we do. We screw up.
Yes,
we screw up.
Yes,
and we try to make. Let me tell you something. We all screw up. We all screw up, and believe me, he's thankful that he didn't. Tiger's done what Tiger's been able to try to do with Tiger's life. I can't walk in. I wish I could walk in his shoes, but because my golf game would improve.
Walk in his bank book.
Yeah, his bank book too. But hey, he's trying to do what he can do. Thank God he's alive.
Yes, Tiger.
It's the fastest hour in sports.
Get well, Tiger, mentally and physically.
Lauren Cox, thank you so very much. It's great to see you back in studio. Marvelous. It's great to have you. Thank you.
Sure.
And
get you, Jay.
Yeah, Jay. I'm disappointed. I just texted him and say, Jay, I'm disappointed in you. That was unprofessional. Dylan, thank you for filling in. It was a rough, rocky road, but we got through it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the fastest hour in sports conversation.
Yeah.
This is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the week, and we'll see you next week on WCPT 820 AM, the Rewind Sports 60. Take care, everybody.
All right, how y'all doing?
We're good. We're good.
Good.
What did you learn about Ryan and his pursuit of Khalil Mack that might be instructive as you guys hunt around for a quarterback?
I think the first thing with Ryan that anybody realizes or sees is that he wants to do what's best for the organization. And so when you run into different scenarios and situations, you want to be able to hit it from every angle and discuss different things with each other. And right away from the front end with me, that's kind of how things went, which I appreciated. Just being able to bounce ideas off of each other. We both, just have so much respect for how we've gotten to where we've gotten to from that point then until where we're at now. And I just think that he's a extremely detailed person. We always joke he writes everything down. And types it all up, and he makes up for the stuff that I don't type and write everything down. So we just bounce everything off of each other and we work well together.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt, when you were looking for a defensive coordinator, I'm curious, did you talk to Wade Phillips? And also, what was your thinking in hiring a first-time coordinator in Sean Desai? And are you kind of thinking that maybe even a first-time guy might give you something that a veteran you couldn't, as far as getting the kind of punch back in his defense?
So a couple things. First of all, Mark, I hope you're doing well. Second, with the defensive coordinator hire, with this being the second time for me to learn through the process of the experience of how to go about it. Number one, on the front end, I'm not going to, because there could be a lot of different names that come up, and I'm not going to, with all due respect to the people involved, I ended up interviewing nine defensive coordinators. So I'll give you the number. And that was different than the first time. And there was a lot of great ones. They all did a really good job, and it made it hard. But in the end, I just was really excited for the direction that Sean saw this team moving forward. The thing that I really liked about Sean is his conviction and confidence that he has, and the way that he's gotten to this point right now. He's really, really smart, but he's really, really football smart too. He has an unbelievable connection with these players. And what I find fascinating is when you go through the process, every person that we talk to and that I talk to, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. And one of the biggest obstacles and hurdles that Sean has always had to go through is coming through, the ranks that he's been in is the fact that he did not play college football, and he did not play in the NFL. He did not play in the Arena League. And so, but that said, to see the way that the guys respect him and the way that he works and how he got to this point, it was really neat. And then everything else that goes into it, so many strengths. And I'm just really excited and looking forward to seeing him put his spin onto this defense. And he's been waiting for this for a long time, and now the opportunity's here. And I'm really, really excited for him and our team.
Thank you.
Dan Wiederer.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Dan, how are you?
Good. This is the first time as a head coach where you go into an offseason with everything on the table at the quarterback position, to use Ryan's words. What excites you about the possibility of exploring a lot of different avenues to find a quarterback, and what are you after as you guys try to get to the finish line of this?
Yeah, so what I'd say, Dan, is for me, growing as a head coach and learning the different styles of quarterback play with guys like Mitchell and with Nick and Tyler and the guys that have been here, to anybody else that could come through this building, is they all have their strengths and their weaknesses too. And so the first year, as you all know, in 2018, coming in here with the style of offense that we had, it's funny, we're in scheme eval right now. Every morning we get together as a staff, we do our scheme eval, and we now have a library of being able to see where were we can compare 2018, 2019, 2020. And as we all know, there's some areas in 2018 that we did better than 2019 and 2020, but there's other areas too where we've improved. And now you start with the quarterback position, and for us, there's a lot of different ways that we could go right now, right? Whether it's with Mitchell, whether it's with Nick, whether it's if it's with somebody outside. And there's a lot of different ways that it could go. And I've always been a quarterback. I've always played the position my entire life. I have fun evaluating the position and seeing what other players do well and don't do well, and then how it fits into where we're at. Right now, we're literally in the thick of everything, and just so many what if this, what if that. And it's our job to work together to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's together. Everybody, not just Ryan and myself, but the coaches, the personnel, and talking through different scenarios. There's so many things involved, some things that are out there and some things that aren't out. And so I just go back to your original question. For me, I love the process. I really enjoy it. I feel like over time, for myself, selfishly, there's confirmation in that. And so that part's what excites me.
Adam Johns.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good, Adam.
I was wondering if you could maybe just lay out the roles, your expectations for Tom Herman, the recent hiring, and for Mike Pettin, also on defense. These are I guess, newer positions with different titles?
Yeah, so I'll start off with Mike Pettin. As you all know, I've always had a lot of respect for the way that he does things, for him as a defensive coordinator. And, anytime that you can strengthen your staff in ways of whether it's helping out in meetings and in personnel, in different ideas, the beauty is when you go through times like this, especially like a guy like Coach Pettin, who's been a head coach in this league, right? He's been a defensive coordinator and had a lot of success coming in with the first year coordinator and Sean Desai. What I thought was beautiful about our conversations, the three of us, was that there's just zero egos involved the whole way through. And so Coach Pettin is really here for a sounding board for Sean, and for him to be able to maybe ask questions when he has an idea or a thought or confirmation. Also, at the same time, being able to work ahead of time and help out, whether it's with the offense or the defense. But when you have smart people in your building that you feel like can help out, and you don't have people that are in positions where they have an ego or they're a threat or it's just not good. It's unhealthy. We don't want that. And that's that's what I'm so looking forward to seeing, how that thing blends together. And the same thing with Tom Herman. Here's a guy that has had a lot of success in his career, worked his way up in the college ranks, the whole way up to a very successful head coach, and has done it at the highest level. And a guy that we've discussed together, the conversations we've had with myself, with Bill Lazor, with Coach Flip, of just where is he at and what is his why coming into this league. He's never been a part of this. And I think just as much as he can help us out in similar things on offense, like Coach Pettin will for the defense, they can cross over, right? And Tom Herman can be a help to Sean Desai, and Pettin can be a help to us. So there's that. But in the same time, Coach Herman gets to see what the NFL is all about, and how do we game plan? How do we look at different things? He brings the element of the college game to whether it's in evaluating or whether it's schematically. So again, the biggest part of all that, for the long-winded answer, is that we have guys that have no ego, that all they want to do is ultimately help, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Chris Emma.
Matt, you said in an interview last month that you felt this team was close, that the roster was close, and expressed your hope that the quarterback position can get you over the hump. What's your confidence in your ability to make that move this offseason, and what's your expectation of what's to come?
Sure. Yeah, Chris. So you look at kind of where we've been at the last 3 years, and you get to a point where we can sit here and we can talk about the playoffs 2 or 3 years. We can say we can, and I know, that gets brought up. You can talk about the offense has struggled. You can talk about the quarterback position, but really what it comes down to is every year is so different. And for me as the head coach, my biggest challenge going into this year is trying to learn from the previous 3 years of where we're at and how do we get better. And there's a lot of different things that I'm growing. I've said that each year, but I really am. I feel like for me, if I can take my weaknesses that I've had in whatever it is and use other coaches' strengths to help me out, I'll do that. And so it's a new year. Last year is gone. Just like Sean said, right? You guys are asking Sean, what's your defense going to look like? It's going to look like the 2021 Sean Desai defense. I love that. I think that's real. So we have an opportunity, and we know that we have different areas to fix and different areas to get better. And it's our job now as coaches to also make sure that we're coaching at the highest level, right? We're putting these guys in the best position possible. And when you go through a 4-game losing streak like we did in 19, when you go through a 6-game losing streak like we did last year, let's eliminate those. Let's have more of the 5-1 starts and finish strong. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's win in the playoffs. And that's our challenge to our coaching staff and our players heading into this year.
Hub Arkush.
Hey, Matt, good to see you. I hope everything's
well. You too, Hub. You too.
Thank you. I understand you can't give me names of quarterbacks, and I get why. I know you're not trying to be difficult. I get the competitive advantage part. But if you could have your pick of the quarterback to run the scheme that you hoped to run when you came to Chicago, what would be the 3 most important traits you'd be looking for? And relative to that, not having a combine or in-person visits, how much is that going to handicap you in discovering those traits?
Sure. So here's what I would say, and this is where when I first got hired, Hub, you come into this thing, and obviously Mitchell being our young quarterback that's coming in, learning the system, being able to give you the dual threat that can run, but can also has the arm and the ability to make every throw in the playbook, which he does. And so you start off there and you say that, but then as you go through it, right, and you start to see where your team is at with your players and their strengths that they have and how it fits. Now you start kind of tweaking your offense a little bit to turn it into the Chicago Bears offense, right? And not necessarily the Kansas City offense. There's stuff that we like from that offense that we brought here. There's stuff we've gotten away from. There's stuff we've added as far as this year in 2020. But that would be one part is do you have versatility and being able to you don't have to be running all over the field, but have some movement. Great. If you don't, we'll work around that. The other part I'd say is decision making. Every quarterback coach in the world will tell you that. It's when you make those decisions. I think situational football, y'all have heard me say it over and over, is important with decision making. And then having the leadership skills. And when I say that, every quarterback leads in different ways. I was around a guy with Alex Smith who was that happy medium where he wasn't a yeller and screamer at the guys, but he wasn't quiet. He was right down the middle. And every guy has kind of their own ways that they do it, but they all lead in a certain way and they multiply the players around them. And so I'd say leadership, decision-making, and if you have some versatility as a quarterback with your legs, great. If you don't, no problem. We can work around it.
And are you guys going to be challenged by not being able to do in-person visits and not having the combine?
Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, that's a big time challenge in so many ways. It's definitely unprecedented. It's real. So now that just puts more of the onus on our personnel. It puts more of the onus on our coaches and different phone calls that we got to make just to make sure, hey, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? And then, just making sure that what you see on tape is real. And then you got some guys that don't have a lot of tape because of what went down. So without a doubt, this is unprecedented.
Brad Biggs.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Brad.
You said there's a lot of ways it could go with referring to the quarterback situation. So what I'm curious is how many ways are there that you'll be confident with? Like, how many options are there that you can point at right now today and say, you know what, I'm good with that?
So what I would say to you, Brad, is that there's several, and we can't get into that right now, but there's a lot of different what ifs, and there's a lot of different, okay, here we are, this is where we're at. And if it's X, Y, quarterback X, Y, or Z, including the guys that we discussed with Mitchell and Nick, what do we do to get this thing better? Because in the end, we got to score more points and we got to score more touchdowns, regardless of anything. And it's not just one position. It's not. It's everywhere. And we feel like with some of the younger guys that we drafted this past year and previous years, guys are really jumping into their specific roles, and they can help multiply that quarterback position. They can help out. And so without getting into the directions of every one of them, I think the biggest thing is, do we have a plan? Will we have a plan? Could things change? Absolutely. Without a doubt, things could change. And then we got to make sure from the coaching standpoint, right? Myself, Bill Laser, Flip, we got to make sure offensively that we're always communicating with Ryan so that he understands where we're at and how it's a fit or not a fit.
Jason Leisure.
Hey, Matt, when you're
Jason.
evaluating quarterbacks who played for you before, like Foles or Alex Smith, is there a challenge in comparing what they did for you versus where they're at currently in their career?
Probably a little bit, just because, they've obviously Alex had his big injury. And so, but for him to be able to come back and do what he did is just fascinating. And then with Nick, same thing, right? This was our first year going into this season, calling plays and being with Nick and understanding what his strengths and weaknesses are. And, you have to be able to say, as a coach, you have to be able to say, okay, what do they do well? And then how do we help them? And I think you guys saw there with Mitchell towards the end of the season, we really were creating that identity with the offense and the direction. Now, it doesn't mean that we weren't doing things that we didn't do in 2018 or 19, but specifically with those other guys, you know, we're learning as a staff. Let's try to take what we do well as an offense and help it fit with what these quarterback strengths are. And last year you saw a little bit of, you got a guy like Mitchell who has the movement with his legs. He can threaten opposing defenses on third down with the scramble, with the way he scrambles. And then you got a guy like Nick who's coming into a situation, and it's a little different philosophy offensively with some of the things that we do there. That said, too, we had different personnel throughout the year that went on. And so just trying to work through all of that. And so you have to be able to be adaptive to every one of your quarterbacks that you work with. And that's what we need to do.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Matt, when you look at the Al Robinson situation, I think this might be kind of a first for you here, where you have a guy of that profile who's going to be a free agent. How do you view it from your spot as a head coach? Because obviously Ryan and Joey take care of the business side of it, and you know what he brings to your offense. So what role do you play, and how do you kind of what's your perspective on that?
So I would say, Kevin, the biggest thing is anytime you get into these type of situations with these players across the league, it's never easy. It's never fun, but it's real. And that process is what you try to do ultimately, right? Is you try to get to that win-win in a perfect scenario. A-Rob knows how much we love him. A-Rob knows, you know, how much that me as a head coach and Ryan as a general manager, the importance that he brings to this city, to the organization, to his teammates, to all of us. And then now you run into, you know, the things that he has done with us and the things that we have done for him, being able to help him be productive. Now you get to this point, and this is where Ryan and Joey will do their thing, and A-Rob and his agent work together, and you just try to figure out, okay, where is it a win-win? And from my perspective, I let them do that part. And again, I've had a million conversations with A-Rob in 3 years, and he's well aware of what he means to all of us. And this is just the business side, and we're not the only team in the NFL that's dealing with this right now.
Colleen Kane.
Hey, Matt, since you've had a little more time to evaluate Nick's play since the end of the season, what was your assessment of him, and how does that evaluation play into his status moving forward for 2021?
Sure. So I would say, Colleen, we now, like, being in the middle of it, you get to see of our scheme evaluations every morning. You get to kind of see some of the whys, and we had a pretty good idea going into a lot of it where we were, and really, in all fairness to Nick, when we went through some of the stretch that we went through as an offense, there was a lot of different areas that we could have been a lot better at. And then you have some of the health issues, you have injuries, you have people playing in different spots. And there's some things that are just a little bit different than probably we thought it would be at. And Nick would be the first to tell you that we could coach better. We could play better. Everybody could have stepped up a little bit more when we went through that stretch. But, you know, he stepped up in a lot of different ways and just showed kind of who he was. And we understand that now. You know, do we want more from him? Yes. Can we get more from him? Yes. Can that happen with us as well? For sure. We can help out from the coaching side too. So, you know, talking through things and the relationship side of it is real. And I just think, again, you know, he's for him and understanding his role with us. He's under contract. And I think one of the best things that we do is we talk through the whys all the time. And every year is different. And, well, you know, that's why 2021 is going to be different for all of us.
Mark Grody.
Hi, man. It's obviously a very unique situation where two franchise quarterbacks might be available in Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. How surprised are you about that news, which has ruled the NFL this offseason? And do you allow yourself to think about the possibility of them if you're thinking about all of the possibilities with this team?
Yeah, obviously I can't get into any of that because those guys are, all these players are under contracts. And so it's just, to me, I have no idea. We have to, from our end, we have to look at it like the guys that we know their contracts are up, and that's what we do. And so we just stick to that plan, and that's not something that I can even get into.
This is always such a unique time of year as we're approaching free agency. And I appreciate you guys understanding the sensitivity that comes with that. Obviously it's a time period where every team's got to make a lot of decisions, a lot of important decisions, your own UFAs, evaluating the free agent market, the trade market, prepping for the draft. That's just the moment we're in right now. Our coaching staff's been finalized. That was really the first step in our offseason process. And we're excited about a lot of the additions and some of the changes we made on the coaching end, but now it's onto the rosters. So that's the window we're in. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
First up, Brad Biggs.
Hi, Ryan. Do you have a plan you feel is going to get you a starting quarterback?
Yeah. Hey, Brad. Really, right now for us, everything's on the table in regard to the quarterback situation. And honestly, that includes players on our current roster. That includes free agency, trade, the draft, and a combination of all those. So we have a plan in place, and now it's about executing that plan.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hey, Pat.
Hey, have you made a determination whether Mitch Trubisky will return next year, or whether you're interested in a return from him?
Yeah, again, that's going to be part of our offseason plan, and we're not going to lay all that out right now, Pat. It's just those are all internal discussions we've had, but I would say again, everything's on the table with all the quarterbacks.
Dan Wiederer.
Ryan, you talked in January about being connected on a vision with Matt in regards to going after this quarterback position. I'm curious what all goes into that as you guys put your heads together and try to, converse through the traits you want to prioritize and just come together with an action plan that works for both of your visions.
Yeah, and Dan, hey Dan, it's not just Matt and I. It's our coaches and our scouts together. And I would say on all positions, but especially that one, it's been daily conversations that we've had. So not just talking, but watching film together. Discussing different traits, discussing different players and different avenues to acquire those players and different combinations. So I think we're ready to kind of pivot a number of ways. I think that's going to be important this offseason, especially with that position.
As a follow-up to that, Ryan, obviously there's been a couple high-profile trades already at the quarterback position. There's rumblings. I know you can't speak about other players who are under contract elsewhere, but when you hear the rumblings about potential star quarterbacks that could become available, how do you respond to that in knowing that this is your number one priority?
Yeah, I think, and it could be, you're right on a position of need, you could say, but it could be any scenario where there's a potential trade. We're going to explore every one of those, Dan. We'll be thorough with that. So it's just us doing our due diligence on all different things and exploring every avenue to improve our team and improve our roster, and it's no different with that.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Ryan, two questions. Has Eddie Goldman given you any indication or confirmation that he will play in 2021? And also, considering the tight salary cap situation that you're in, what is your confidence level in, as honestly as you can be, that both Kyle Fuller and Akeem Hicks will be on the roster in 2021?
Yeah, good question, Mark. With Eddie, we've communicated with Eddie on a regular basis. We did that during the season as well, and obviously we really missed him this year. Excited to get him back in the mix. Coach Rumpf, our new defensive line coach, has communicated with him as well. So that's all been part of it, and obviously he's a big piece of what we're doing. So we're excited about that. What was your second question, Mark?
Considering the salary cap situation, what's your most honest assessment of your confidence level that both Fuller and Hicks will be on the roster next year?
Yeah, without getting into specific players, I think, this is going to be a year, Mark. You guys know it's going to be about adjusting, and we're not the only team in the league dealing with these circumstances, and everyone's prepping for a tighter cap. We have a plan in place with that. It involves different things. I mean, there's different ways for us to create room with our cap, not just releasing players. That's a hard part of the business. We had a difficult decision with Buster yesterday, and there'll be some decisions to make. I think you're going to see more of that around the league than you've ever seen. But we're prepared. We're expecting a cap to be about 180, so we're prepared for that, and we'll operate accordingly.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Ryan. With Allen Robinson, I know in January you mentioned the franchise tag is an option. He's been pretty open about the way he feels about that tag. How, if anything, does that impact your decision, knowing the way he feels about it?
Yeah, I think we got to look at it. Obviously we have a ton of respect for Allen, and then we have to do what's best for the Bears too. And so we consider everything. The league gives us the franchise tag as an option. That tool's there for a reason. We haven't made a firm decision on any of that yet, but we know we have that at our disposal.
Jason Leisure.
Ryan, are you committed to bringing Allen back for 2021, regardless of what it takes, whether it's a new contract or franchise tag? Are you counting on him? Can you ensure that he's going to be on the Bears in 2021?
We love Allen Robinson. He's a great player for us, Jason. We know that, and not just the player, but the teammate, the professional that he is. Again, the franchise tag is an option for us. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to use that, but we want to keep our good players, and Allen is a good player for us.
Hub Arkush.
Hey, Ryan, I hope you're well, man. If you had a franchise quarterback, a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson, what might cause you to think it would be a good idea or make sense to trade him?
To trade who?
If you had a franchise quarterback in a Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, what might make you think that it would be a good idea or cause you to go ahead and trade one of them?
Yeah, that's a good question, Hub. I think there's so many things that go on internal with teams around the league, and you never really know unless you're within those walls. And I've only been with two different clubs, but there's things that have gone on behind the walls that no one else will know. And so you never really know what's going on. You just respect the process, but you never really know the reasons behind those things. So I really can't answer that in any detail.
Do you think, is it a question with each different franchise of policy of how much they're going to let players dictate and how much they have to follow their own rules that could cause them to deal somebody they don't want to deal?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think it's just every team's constructing their roster differently, and I think every GM, you have to be forward thinking. You have to think ahead in the future, and I think there's a lot of decisions that can affect that, and they might not be popular decisions or decisions that everyone understands right now, but I think there's things that go on behind the scenes that nobody knows.
Adam Johns.
Hey, Ryan, kind of going off that, when you look at that trade market, especially for quarterbacks and what it could be, is there like a timeline, a deadline that you kind of stick to as you wait for maybe other situations to play out, whether that's with other cities, other teams, in terms of making your own decision? And then kind of going off that, like, is there a limit for trying to acquire from one of those guys? Like, is there such a thing as too much in trying to make a deal like that?
Yeah, I think with any trade, we're always going to have, we can't be reckless. We're always going to have our limits with every trade. And that's going to be, individual based on the position and the player you're talking about, of course. And then I think the timeline, it just dictates, you obviously have a lot of different things planned out with free agency and the draft. And the last thing you want to do is put yourself or the team in a bad position where you get kind of stuck, So I think you have internal timelines that based on the calendar year with free agency and the draft, and you operate from that.
Colleen Kane.
Ryan, without the in-person combine this year, what are the biggest challenges for you in the pre-draft process? And what did you learn last year going through at least some of that process virtually?
Yeah, Colleen, it's interesting. Every team's operated under these conditions. And I think, first off, you really got to rely on your area scouts. And we have, and they've done a great job in the fall getting all the information they can, because our interaction is much less. We don't have the combine visits, our interviews. We don't have the 30 visits. We go to the pro days, but there's very little interaction. So we have to be resourceful going forward. We got to maximize the conditions we're operating under, and it's going to be different. We've all gotten really comfortable and familiar with using the Zoom calls, but sometimes it's not the same as having that interaction. But we just got to maximize the conditions we're under. We were just meeting with our coaches today on their pro day schedules, and it's things like that. Appreciating our coaches, traveling all around the country and going above and beyond, doing their job to attend these pro days along with our scouts. And we just got to be resourceful through this process along with every other team.
Adam Hogue.
Hey, Ryan, back to Al Robinson real quick. By all accounts, he's been the perfect player for you and your culture on and off the field, what he's delivered in the locker room. Typically, you've rewarded those types of players with contract extensions. This case obviously went a little bit longer than you guys expected. Are you concerned at all how others on the team, on your roster, might view the situation if it continues to drag on into the spring and the summer?
Yeah, Adam, we have a history, of extending our players, as you mentioned, and we usually find a way to make that work. I think the proof's kind of in the pudding with that, and every one of them's different, and every one of them's personal, and that's why I'm sensitive, and I hope you guys understand about talking about that in the media. But it's a process, and it takes both sides to work through that, and every one of them's unique. And I do like to lean on our history. I think Joey Lane does a great job of working through that and building relationships with those agents. And Alan has a really good agent that we've worked with in the past, and it's a process though, and we're kind of going through that.
Brad Biggs.
Ryan, Matt suggested back during Super Bowl week to NFL.com that the Bears were a quarterback away from being a contender. How are you approaching the offseason to reflect that opinion? And then I'd also like to know if Khalil Mack or Jalen Johnson underwent surgery.
Yeah, first on the quarterback, obviously it's a critical position for us, and like I said, Brad, every single thing is on the table. And I think we owe that to ourselves, our own quarterbacks, trades, free agency, draft, and we're working through that. And I do like the staff we've assembled to kind of attack that together. We've added some guys even in recent days, I think, that can help us as we evaluate that position. So we know the importance of it. We know that's a priority as we go into this offseason. That's stating the obvious, and I'm just excited about attacking it together. And then I guess I would say with Jalen and Khalil, neither of those required surgery. So it's just a matter of just strengthening and being ready to roll when we start back up.
Zach Pearson.
Hey, Ryan, kind of off of Brad's question there. As you evaluate your roster going into free agency, how close do you feel you guys are to contending again for the NFC North and potentially in the NFC as a whole?
Yeah, there's a window here to improve our team. And I think, it started with our coaches and kind of some of the tweaks we made there. And we look at this, we have, foundation pieces in place on our roster. And, we've proven, we have a playoff-ready roster. We've been there 2 of the last 3 years, and we got a lot of young talent we need to develop. And obviously, our expectations are much higher than that. That's obvious. But it's about building upon what we already have and making the necessary strides. And that's a big one that we're talking about right now, and I understand that. But we do feel like we have a lot of foundation pieces in place, a lot of good talent on our roster, and it's our job to add to that.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Ryan, who do you lean on to make sure that you balance the short-term benefits of a quarterback decision with the long-term impact it may have on the franchise in general? I think it would be human nature for you and Matt both to sit there and put a lot of weight in what a quarterback could do for you next year.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Pat. And it's Matt it's Matt and I, it's our coordinators, it's our directors in college scouting and pro scouting. It's Joey Lane. It's everyone, it's Ted and George. It's a collaborative effort in this whole building. I know we use that word a lot, but it really is, and I think it's natural for us. And, talking to coaches that come into our building from maybe different teams, I think they appreciate and respect the collaborative effort that we take. So it's not just one or two people, it's an entire building making these decisions. And as you said, it's not just short term. There has to be a long-term thought process in place. And that's the right way to do it. And that's the way we operate.
Stacey Dales.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Ryan, what do you consider specifically the strengths of your football team right now?
Hey, Stacey, how you doing?
Awesome.
I think I'd start with this. I think our strength is our coaching staff. I think we got a strong coaching staff that we built upon this off season. But yeah, I mean, our defense is the strength of our team. We have a lot of talent all throughout our defense. And are there areas we want to be better in that we were in last year? Of course. And I think we've done some things to already try to tweak that. But and I think on offense, I think as the season went on, you saw some of our young talent emerging. I thought our offensive line really settled in the second half of the season. Our running game settled in. The talent we have at the receiver position, the talent we have at the tight end position with Cole and Jimmy. And again, it's on us to continue to add to it. I go back to our special team, Stacey, and I think you look at the season Cairo had and CP and Pat O'Donnell, and I think our special teams is a strength too. So, but it's on us to add to that, continue to get better, and that's the window we're in right now.
Thank you.
Dan Wiederer.
Ryan, I have a second question, but I wanted to follow up on Adam's question about Allen. I know you're sensitive to the topic, but is there anything beyond numbers and the financials that has prevented this from progressing?
No, it's all, I mean, with a contract, there's a number of things that go into it. Again, I can't get into that, Dan. I hope you respect it. It's just part of the process, and it's just going to take both parties to work together to make something work. I know Allen wants to be a Chicago Bear, and we want him to be a Chicago Bear, and it's just it's a sensitive process that we're kind of in the middle of that, and we got to work through it.
Big picture, when you guys sat down for those meetings in those couple days after the playoff loss to kind of chart the future and express your vision, what was important for you to emphasize to George and Ted about how you were going to clear this hurdle, clear this hump, and have this football team playing championship football again? Yeah, I think, you try to take out the emotions right afterwards, Dan, and just kind of go through it. But I think you first got to understand the reasons why. Like, why are we in this position? And that takes some time. And it took some weeks after the season to meet with the staff and kind of our end of the year meetings and go through that. So it wasn't like everything is solved the day after the season. We have to diagnose where are the areas we want to improve and what's realistic. And I think we've done a good job of doing that. Now it's just using this offseason to attack that with the resources we have. And I think when you have continuity on the staff and you have a personnel department, a coaching staff that's been together for as long as we have, I've seen it in other organizations, that can be a strength. We're united, we're on the same page, we see things the same way. And now it's just about attacking it together. And that's what we're doing. And we're excited about doing that in the coming months.
We're going to take two more questions. John Greenberg.
Mute. Hey, Ryan, kind of going on what you said about what you guys don't know, what we don't know about what's going on in different buildings. How much are you guys clued in on, like, from social media to regular media? Like, when there's players that are unhappy and you start seeing like this avalanche of news coming in, how much do you guys kind of look at that and then maybe act upon it?
Yeah. Hey, John, I think there's a lot of that stuff that's going on. I think now more than ever, I think it gives you guys something to write about too, and I understand that. But I think with us, I think that's when you lean on the relationships that you have in the league right now. Just me talking to GMs throughout the league, that's commonplace right now, regardless. And I think you lean on those relationships and you're able to quickly determine what's real and what's not, and different possibilities. And there'll be some things that might not even be in the media right now that are potential possibilities that we're talking about. And that's normal. That's normal every year. And I think that's where I lean on my relationships with my counterparts with other clubs. And I know Matt does the same thing.
Right, like with the Khalil Mack situation, I assume it was something maybe you saw and then you kind of follow up on.
Yeah, and
Is
I
that the
think
case?
back then, I think you lean on like with Reggie McKenzie and John Gruden and that relationship and that communication, and it just progresses, and eventually something that might not seem realistic at the time becomes a reality.
Mark Grody.
Hey Ryan, you've taken some big swings in the past on things, whether it was Khalil Mack or even moving up to take Mitchell Trubisky. Do you anticipate making a big swing on something in this offseason?
It just depends, Mark. It depends on the opportunity. It's not like we go into it and say, hey, we're going to take a big swing just to make headlines and make a splash. It depends on what's presented to us, and it could go a different number of different ways. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean if we go into this draft, for example, there's a lot of evaluation that needs to take place. I mean, trading up might not be the best option. It could be staying put. It could be going back. And I think it just depends on the different targets that are there, the different options that are there. And what I appreciate is this is with Josh Lucas and Champ Kelly, Mark Sadowski, Jeff King, Joey Lane, leaning on those guys and the ability. And I think this offseason more than any because of the number of players that are going to be available. We're going to see a lot of guys hit the market in the coming weeks. And I really think as a staff, we got to be able to pivot and adjust along the way to some things that we might not expect. And I think that comes down to the number of players that we've evaluated and just being ready for every scenario. And there's a lot of hard work that's going on behind the scenes to allow us to maneuver through a really unprecedented offseason.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update, a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles and the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Dr. Chadwick Padromas is an orthopedic surgeon at Illinois Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Centers right here in the great Chicagoland area, also in Glenview, Naples, and he is the orthopedic surgeon at Padromas Stem Cell Institute. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Anterior Cruciate Ligament Reconstruction and Basic Science. Doctor, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jerry. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic, and hey, looks like we're around the bend, as they say in the old horse racing business. Here they come spinning around the turn as far as the weather is concerned, because last time we had chatted, it was below zero. The temperatures were plummeting, and the snow and cold was here. A week later, 45 degrees temperature. The weekend is looking very good as well. So we're coming on in around the turn there, and looking good, feeling good, and enjoying these end of this tough.
Yeah, only in
winter.
Chicago. Only in Chicago can the 40s feel like beach weather, But I feel the same way.
Exactly. I got friends down in Oklahoma, and she was, because all that area, Texas, Oklahoma, they got hit with the cold and the snow, and luckily for her, unfortunately for her, the pipes in their place didn't burst, but they had a water main break outside their complex, so they had to get that taken care of. But she was bragging to me saying, yeah, we're up to 70 degrees back again. And I was like, oh, wow, what a way to rub it in for us. But you're right, 45 degrees, close to 50 degrees, that's like beach weather for sure. Yeah. Talk about warm weather and warm climates. Baseball season, spring training is kicked off this past week. The Cubs and Sox have reported to Arizona. And, of course, this is golf season as well. And the biggest name in golf made world news, but not the way that he wanted to make news. The recent rollover automobile accident by the great Tiger Woods just outside of Los Angeles, California, about a week ago. And it was breathtaking. A lot of people were on pins and needles as far as his health was concerned. Thank God he's healthy, he's alive, and he's fine. But he suffered a serious injury in that automobile accident, doctor, and it was a shattered, broken leg, more or less, and a shattered ankle. But if you want to elaborate a little bit more on the injury that Tiger Woods sustained and what this means to his rehab and getting back to some sort of normalcy.
Yeah, and and first I should also mention, had he not been wearing a seatbelt, he probably wouldn't have survived. So that's I think these days most everybody does, but something important to keep in mind. Yeah, he so, and again, as always, I have no inside information, just what I get in the news feeds. But open fracture, compound fracture. Compound's the older term, open's the newer one, meaning that you break the bone, but the skin is broken, so that the broken bone communicates with the outside air environments. Generally worse injuries, higher energy injuries. So compound fracture of his tibia, probably his fibula too, I don't know that for sure, and a fracture of his ankle. So, from what I read, he had a rod put in his tibia, he had plate and screws put on his ankle, these days we do better with those than we used to. Very skilled trauma surgeons pretty much everywhere, but it's the tibia is the slowest bone in the body to heal because it's a big bone, and bone gets its blood supply and cells that help it heal from muscle that surrounds it. So the femur is a very serious injury when you get it, but the thigh bone is surrounded by muscle. The tibia is exposed in much of its area, so tibia fractures can just take a very long time to heal.
It's amazing that, again, it just sounds like basically a broken leg and shattered, fractured ankle. And you're absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen, kids as well. Those of you who are watching and or listening to this podcast, make sure to be responsible and put the seatbelt on. Put the seatbelt on. The authorities out there said that that probably saved Tiger Woods' life, and thank goodness he was, buckled in, strapped down. And unfortunately, now it's interesting as far as the road that he was traveling on, doctor. They said this is a very dangerous road in the first place. There reported unofficial reports of 13 accidents in the past 13 months on that road. Wow. With 5 injuries, 5 people who sustained injuries from that road, driving on that road. So now Los Angeles County officials are going to take a closer look at this road to see what they can do to try to make things safer. But it's unbelievable that it would take something of this magnitude with Tiger Woods nearly killing himself for this to finally get some attention and be addressed. But again, thank goodness that he's fine and he's okay. But he's got a long rehab recovery process ahead of him. And when I heard the news and I saw the wreckage, again, it was kind of haunting because we're just about a year ago from when Kobe Bryant in the Los Angeles area and his beautiful young daughter and friends lost their lives in a helicopter crash. So when we heard the news of Tiger, it was definitely breathtaking, and we were saying our prayers because we didn't want to have a repeat of another iconic sports figure, losing his life. But when I saw it and I heard it, I said that his golf career is over. It's done. I mean, he was in the twilight years of his golf career prior to the accident. But my opinion, I mean, I simply don't see a comeback. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, there's several interrelated issues here. So the tibia fracture is slow to heal, and there have been a few high-profile injuries that the most recent being Alex Smith, quarterback, who had, he had a compound fracture of his tibia like Tiger. I don't really know if he fractured his ankle as well, but his was complicated by infections. He not only, almost lost his leg, almost lost his life. And so the fracture mechanically can be put together with some clever hardware, nails that go down the center of the bone and plates and screws. But there's the sort of the carpentry aspect of it which we've gotten pretty good at doing these days. But there's the biology aspect of it too. And that bone, the higher the energy that's imparted, the more tissue death and the greater the chances that bad things will happen. The two bad things mainly being infection, which he had, I believe, and also it's called non-union, which means it just doesn't heal. And then you have to go back later and do other things. So, even if all goes well, it's problematic. But this is something that is not a slam dunk to heal right. So right now he's had his preliminary surgery, and I don't know. Sometimes there are cases where you'll put one form of hardware in and switch it out for another. Probably that's not the case. Usually, I was told he had placement screws in his ankle, which is usually definitive, and a rod down the tibia is usually definitive as well. So, if he's lucky, maybe that's it. But once it's put together, bad things can happen. Surgeons know this. They have to be vigilant. And so, with Alex Smith's, it went on for a long, long time, and just remarkable that he got back. The other injury that is equally well known, maybe more so, was Joe Theismann, 30 some years ago, and that was a nationally televised game. I remember watching it, and wow, people saw right on the screen his leg bending in ways that it wasn't supposed to bend. I don't know if he had a compound fracture or not. That is, if the bone was sticking out through the skin, but I do know that it took a long time, and I believe, and I'm just going from memory here, I think he failed his physical the next year, which is not a reflection on him. These things just take a long time to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he decided to retire. And probably after another year, it would have healed well enough for him to play. But then the question comes up, you're getting a little older, one thing and another. So the one lesson from this, in Tiger Woods' case, if you get complications, they can go on for a very long time. But even if you don't, these things take more than a year to heal and get back to the way they were. Now, the bar is a little lower for golf than it is for football, but still in all, as you say, it's going to be a while. And in general, the knee is okay afterwards, although you can get some pain from where a rod's put in. The ankle sometimes can have issues from having the hardware put in. So the point I'm getting at is that the leg is an issue in and of itself. But in his case, again, I haven't studied his medical history, but I do know that he's had back issues and I believe multiple back surgeries. So the back is just is sort of the Achilles heel, as it were, for golfers. Golf is friendly to your shoulders in general, generally friendly to the knees, although I think he's had knee issues too, but it's a lot of torque on the back. So here's the thing. He had back issues and he came back, and he won the other major and all that, which is remarkable testament to him. But when you hurt your leg like this, you limp and you're on crutches and your gait is altered, and altered gait is stressful to the back. So not only does he have to worry about his leg, he also has to worry about whether his altered gait biomechanics, as we say, will aggravate his back. Hopefully not. But, a golf swing is such a delicate thing, and particularly with someone like him, and the guys now, the good players, are so strong. They generate tremendous torque. So they're very finely balanced. So, there's the leg, there's the back, there's the fact that he's toward the senior, the more advanced portion of his career. And as you say, how much do you lose? You lose muscle mass.
you